Are you allergic to cats or peanut butter or maybe ants? I'm about to share with you 2 stories that's going to change your perspective on how you view allergies, and hopefully you can draw out some of your own solutions and put it behind you once and for all. So I was in South Africa speaking on the topic of professional speaking to a group of people, and I was staying with them, staying at the house, and they had a beautiful home, a massive home, but they had a cat. And I didn't do my homework prior to going, and I've had a history of being allergic to cats probably since I was a teenager. And so yeah, at least it was 15 to 20 years of being allergic to cats. And so what would happen is my eyes would get red and itchy and puffy, and I would have difficulty breathing. I'd start wheezing. And so it was right before bed, and there was a doctor staying with them, a really good friend of mine. Hey, Kim. And so he basically offered me some homeopathic remedies. Now I try as much as possible to solve everything from the inside out, and so that's why I, gracefully accepted his generosity. But when I went back to the room, I didn't actually take the medication or the treatment. And so I went to bed, and in the middle of the night, it got really bad. I'm talking like 3 in the morning. I could barely breathe. It was so bad. There was no cat in my room, but I had to present the next day, and so I thought, you know what? I got to do everything I can. Remember, I'm like semi-conscious at this point because I was sleeping. But when I got up, I started looking back at my life and looking back at all the experiences that I've had with cats. And I noticed something. I noticed that almost every cat that I interacted with prevented me from either partying at this house or sleeping over at this house or associating in any way with this particular home. So I remember as I traced the memories, one of them was a memory of a party house. These guys were like really partying hard, and I could never stay up late and hang out with them because the cat allergy would get to me and I'd have to leave. And another time, instead of sleeping over, I decided to go home. And pretty much when I traced my history, I noticed that cats, I know this sounds crazy, but it worked for me. Cats seem to be guiding me away from particular homes and particular people. And when I looked at it this way, I traced every single memory I could think of with cats, and I started seeing how it actually served me and how it benefited me and how it steered me in the right direction, the right path, and what amazing, positive, and magnificent things came from the memory. And guess what happened? I just started crying. I remember just lying in bed, bawling my eyes out, overwhelmed with gratitude. And just as I got to that, point, that climax of gratitude, if you will, I heard 2 cats meowing outside my door. And I decided to do something which was crazy to me, and that was to let them in. So I let these 2 cats in, and they came and slept on the bed with me all night. And I got up the next day, I was completely fine. All my symptoms vanished. I ended up presenting the next day, and I discovered something so powerful and so profound that me and some of my colleagues have been speaking about ever since, and that is the miraculous power of gratitude that starts with the mind, and it starts with shifting the way you perceive the things that you're allergic to and the things that you normally would call maybe hate. So by turning hate into appreciate, I was able to heal. I have had no cat allergies since. I haven't been around cats much, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was able to, check into a room with a cat in it and hang out all night. So hopefully you could draw something from that. My recommendation to you would be, look at your history of your interactions with, whether it's the animal or the food item, whatever it is, and just look at balancing that particular experience, so you're not only seeing it negatively, like the cat preventing me from sleeping over here, or the cat preventing me from partying here or going here, and instead look at it, keep the truth, don't lie to yourself, keep those negative aspects in check and in place rather, but make sure you balance them with the opposite view, and that is, how did that experience serve you as well? There's another story of a teenager, I want to say 17 years old, who was allergic to ants. And with him, it wasn't just symptoms like me. He could actually die. He could go into anaphylactic shock and would be rushed to the hospital if he got an ant bite. So I was speaking to him when he was obviously okay. He hadn't had an episode or interaction with ants in a long time. But when we sat down and we started looking at the memories, and we looked at the fact that every time he was, bitten by an ant, the following event would happen. He'd be rushed to the hospital, he would be near death, and then he would draw in his mom, obviously. She'd give him so much attention, be there for him, and then all of a sudden, he'd just turn the corner and start to improve, and things would just slowly start to go back to normal. He'd check out of the hospital and life resumes to as it was before the ant bite. But here's what's fascinating. He was the oldest child, and there was a big gap between him and his siblings. And so the way he looked at it when we broke this down is that he didn't really get a lot of attention when things were going okay. But the minute he got that ant bite and he was rushed to the hospital, his mom would prioritize the relationship with him over his siblings, and she'd spend 24/7 with him. They'd have long talks and really connect, and he would heal. And so what we realized is, and again, he got just as tearful and grateful as I did when he was able to see the pattern. And what we identified is, what's an alternative way to stay connected to mom? Because he's a big, hairy, grown-up guy compared to his cute little siblings, right? That need him and are dependent, whereas he's an independent young man. And so mom doesn't really give him much attention because he's got his life pretty much in check and in order. And so we came up with a strategy of how he could connect with his mom, and how it actually served him just in the way that it went down. Every time he went to the hospital, he was able to connect with mom at a deep level. And at the end, he realized that I don't need to have an ant bite to get the results that I'm looking for. Whatever is driving the behavior, whatever subconsciously is going on that's driving that behavior, is literally just a strategy to help us get what we want out of life at times. And so it was such a beautiful story, and now we want to put it to the test, right? So what do you do in this situation now? So we discussed with his family possibly bringing an ant, putting it into a jar, going to the hospital, getting bitten, and then getting the antidote and reversing the process if needed, and just to see what would happen. Obviously, the whole family opted against that, and I thought that was a wise decision. But he said to me, you know what, I'm sure, I am like so certain that if I was to be bitten by an ant, I would have little to no reaction. And so, I don't know, is psychology strong enough to ensure that that would be the case? Is there some biological memory that would be in check, like in terms of the immune response that would kick in? I don't really know. That's not my area of expertise. But I just want you to think about this, guys. Whatever you're allergic to, just list the major memories where you had really bad experiences. And each one of those events, just ask yourself, what blessing came out of it? What lesson came out of it? What benefit occurred? What were the advantages of it happening? What relationships were transformed? And just see how you can balance those memories so that it's no longer, the memories are no longer haunting you, and the reaction to them, and the reaction to whatever you're allergic to, You can, obviously not change the thing, but change the effect it's having on you. You can't change the fact that the world has cats, but you can change the effect that they have on you. You can't change the fact that ants exist and you may be bitten, but you can possibly change the effect that it has on you. So apply this to the allergy that you're struggling with, and I wish you the absolute best, and feel free to share any comments and stories that you have as well.